Okay, holy smokies. Sometimes I'm so far behind. Nikki Burnett here. This is Taste Life Nutrition Radio, streaming live on kuhsdenver.com. And today we have on a great guest with some really an amazing story, an amazing history, and all of the hardships and the goodness that brings us to where we are today and helps us to build each other up and just bring goodness to the world and to serve others. And that's so much of what we're about on Taste Life Nutrition Radio and podcast is bringing people who can give us information, who can give us stories, who can lift us, help us, and who you might be able to reach out to because they might be able to help you, right? We all need to build our team and find the people who can guide us. I know I need help every day in some way or another. And so today we have on Dr. Halley Stock. She's a physical therapist. I'm going to let her tell all of her story and what she does and who she is. But thank you so much for being here. And I'm sorry, I'm kind of a little bit all over the place this morning, but here we are.
Yeah, awesome. I'm happy to be here, Nikki. It's gonna be fun chatting with you.
Yeah, it's gonna be really good. I've been looking forward to this for weeks now. I don't know, a couple of months maybe. It's been a while. So yeah, so glad you're here. As always, we start the show with gratitude. Gratitude can change the world, and I truly believe that. So there are so many things for us to be grateful for, and just finding one little thing I think can make such a difference for ourselves, for our mindset, for our hearts, for the things that we have to do in life, and then it radiates. It goes out to those who are around us. It is truly energetic. So, Halley, what are you grateful for?
I love this. It's fun too because this year I started a tradition that every morning on my walk I think of one thing that I'm grateful for, and then every night over dinner, my husband and I, before we eat, we say one thing that we're grateful for from the day, and that's just a tradition that we started this year. So this is cool. So I'm always especially grateful for my husband, but in particularly lately, he has shown just extreme passion and dedication for learning how to hunt, and he has been hunting recently, and he has got our freezer full of delicious meat. So we've been very, very grateful for just having an amazing amount of, locally sourced meat in our freezer that we've been really enjoying lately. So that's been awesome.
That's so good. I'm waiting for that day. My husband, he wants to, and I know we talked about this when we met over coffee, but we've talked about him going out and hunting, and it's not the easiest thing to do when you have to. I mean, you've got to be out for days. I mean, if it's elk hunting, right? I mean, you've got to be out there for days. You've got to be out deep in the mountains. You've really got to. It's time consuming, and so.
It definitely is.
Yeah. So are you going with him?
I haven't yet, and so he got 2 deer, one with a bow and one with a gun. Okay. And I would only be hunting with a bow this year if I go. And it's the time commitment of sitting in a tree stand in the cold for hours and hours. That's a little bit hard to bite off for me. But I am still got plenty of time this season to potentially, and I've been working on my shot daily, so I feel more comfortable with my bow. Good. So we'll see if I still get out this year.
That's right. I had totally forgotten that you would be doing bow hunting. I have determined over the course of my life that I'm a cooker. I am not a hunter.
I've enjoyed the cooking part. We've had some venison stew. We've had all different variations of venison, so it's been great.
Yeah, we've had a few deer in the freezer. We have had an elk in the freezer, but it's been a little while, so it would be fun. But yeah, I love people who want to hunt and who do hunt and who do it. The thing that this total sidebar, but I can't help myself. And if this is you out there, then it is what it is. But those who just go to and you let the animals out of the cages and you go hunt them. To me, that's not hunting, and it's a little frustrating. But going out into the mountains and truly hunting is it's traditional, it's historic, it's what we do, and it's great. I think it's really, really great as long as I don't have to do it. But I'm happy for anybody to bring it back cleaned and ready to go, and I'll cook it up and do all the good things. So anyway. My gratitude for today You know, it's kind of fun because it goes along with Thanksgiving coming up for those of us who are in the U.S. Thanksgiving is such a great time of year, and it really is a time to kind of look back. You know, the years go by so freaking quickly, and we get older, and they go quicker and quicker, and we say it all the time, but it's true. But grateful that this year we get to spend, this is my husband's 50th birthday, so we have decided, I know, he's catching up with me, but he decided, because it was up to him, you know, what do you want to do for your birthday? And he has a lot of his friends and family, his closest friends in Kansas still. And so we're going to go to Kansas and stay with his best friend, and we're going to do a nice dinner and hang out with all of his buddies from college, and then couple of his siblings and our in-laws are coming. So anyway, it's gonna be really nice. So we're gonna be there for a week, and then we're gonna get to spend time with my brother and sister-in-law for the Thanksgiving day, and then we'll come back on Friday. So anyway, it's just good to be able to go. We did, it's sort of this last minute thing, and super grateful to have people who are just, really good people. We're surrounded by really amazing people, so grateful for them, grateful for just getting to go and hang out. So, and being able to work from anywhere, because I'm still working next week, for a couple of days anyway, and I can work from anywhere, and I love that. I really love that, so it's good stuff. Yeah. Mm-hmm. All right. So I think at this point, let's just dig in. Let's dig into you, however much of your story you want to share. I think it's a really hard, inspirational story, and where you are now. I have to tell you, if you've not been to her Instagram, I hope it's okay that I say this. She got the most amazing abs and arms, and you go, it's so good. I love it. So I think it's amazing. You really have taken hold of taking care of yourself and then sharing that with others, and it's really it is an inspiration. So start where you would like to start, and let's just go from there. Hear your story.
Awesome. Yeah, well, it wasn't always that way. I wasn't always taking care of myself. I had a pretty typical childhood. I grew up with mostly my two brothers. My parents were together. They did get divorced when I was 18, but I don't know, fairly typical childhood. But for whatever reason, I over the years felt less and less worthy of being who I was, less and less worthy of taking up space, of feeling loved, of being lovable. And at the age of 17, I was clinically diagnosed with anorexia. I lost like a third of my body weight, or pretty close to that. I was skin and bones, and I wasn't big to start off with. I was an all-star varsity athlete, strong, fit, like I said, varsity, so successful. I was a straight A student. Kind of looked from the outside looking in, maybe looked like I had everything together, but on the inside, I have journaled page after page, just of how depressed I was, how lonely I was, how lost I was, confused, and really just how unworthy I felt. And so, I know I strove for perfection in all things. And at the time, I remember a classmate of mine, her mother was overweight, and she was going to go on the Atkins diet. That was kind of all the rage at the time. And so I decided that if the Atkins diet was the good thing, then I would do it perfectly. And so I removed carbs. And then I kind of just started picking all the diets and tried to be perfect at all of them. And progressively, I was just eliminating more and more food groups and more food from what I could consume, while still being a varsity athlete and training, 2 or 3 times a day. And so basically just lost more and more weight until I couldn't perform. I couldn't do anything. And my parents, this part was a little bit fuzzy. My memory's a little, blurred. I think because my brain was so emaciated, but my parents admitted me to a hospital. I was air flighted to the Bay Area. I was living up in Northern California at the time. And I found myself in the first rehab, inpatient setting in a children's hospital for eating disorders. I was on bed rest strictly for, I think, close to 2 weeks.
Oh my goodness.
They wouldn't let me out of bed. I drank nothing but Ensure, which we can talk about later, but is probably not the healthiest choice of food groups.
We have talked about that on this show, but for those who haven't seen it, we will definitely talk about it, because that is, holy smokes. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, it's like considered like a health food in hospitals somehow, and
it's disgusting.
I mean,
it's disgusting.
Processed
it's
junk.
It's
but
a killer.
anyway, so I was refed on Ensure, and then a couple of weeks later, I went home on like a food plan that I was supposed to follow, and I had gained, I don't know how much weight I'd gained, but enough that they felt like I was stable. Because at the time, my heart was this scared. Your heart is a muscle. Your body starts to eat itself when it doesn't have fuel, so it ate away all of my, extremity muscles, and then it started to eat away at my heart, so it became very weak. And that was the concern with putting me in the hospital, really, was making sure that I didn't just crank out and die.
Yeah.
So anyways, I went home with sort of a program in place. I was supposed to follow a meal plan. I was supposed to see a therapist and a doctor, I think weekly. And I did all those things. I was, still in the house of my parents and their rules. So I more or less followed what I was supposed to do, of course, still trying to be perfect. Yeah. And this, I tried to be perfect at rehab too, and at recovery, and I found myself failing. And because I was failing at recovery, I would get mad at myself and beat myself up. Yeah. And therefore I would kind of fall further into the disorder.
Well, so yeah, and sorry to interrupt, but I can't help but to think about this, that your mindset was to do all of these diets, right, perfectly, and then you go to rehab and they put you on another diet, basically, or meal plan, right? And so, does that really make sense?
Yeah, I mean, it's tricky because like eating disorders, like the one addictive behavior where the thing that you're addicted to or the behavior still has to be part of life. Like if you're an alcoholic, you have to stop drinking in order to not be an alcoholic. But if you have an eating disorder, food still has to be a part of your life. You just have to learn a different relationship. So I get that they had to prescribe me something. They had to refeed me. I did have to gain weight. But I definitely didn't learn the skills that I needed in order to get through the mindset that was really behind why I was starving myself in the first place. Because if it was just about eating a certain amount of food, like, it wouldn't have been as hard. I mean, physically it sometimes was hard because I was eating a very large amount of food at some point, but it was about so much more than that. It was about all the emotion underlying it. It was about feeling like I was worthy of eating. It was about feeling that I was worthy of living and taking up space. There were many times in my journals as a young, 17, 18-year-old girl that I just didn't feel that way. And I talked about wanting to waste away and just die because it felt easier than feeling whatever pain I was dealing with in my life. And I think, 17, 18 to 22, which is basically when I had my eating disorder, are pretty formative years of your life. You're learning a lot about who you are, becoming who you are, and I was in a very dark place during those years. So, yeah.
That's so scary.
So I guess...
Yeah, go ahead.
After my first rehab, I went back to school. It was my senior year of high school. I graduated. I moved away for college. And then I spent the next 4 years of my life, basically my college years, kind of downward spiraling slowly. So I knew I was not doing the things I wanted to be doing, and I knew I wanted to be better, and I tried so hard, but the disease was stronger than I was. So it seemed like the harder I tried, the further I slipped down. And I might make a little bit of a progress, but then I would dip off, and then a little progress and dip further. And so basically over the course of the 4 years that I was in college, I just slowly found myself slipping deeper and deeper and deeper into the disorder. And then by the time I graduated, at the age of 22, I guess, I admitted myself to a rehab hospital. And I think this time I kind of hit rock bottom, and I wanted to change so badly, and I knew that I needed support. And so this time it actually made a difference. And I spent, I think, a couple of months in rehab this time. It was quite a bit of time. And then I had a more structured step down procedure following the inpatient rehab that I was in. And then by the time I got out, I think my mind was in a stable enough place to continue. But I think still the next 10 years of my life was a lot of personal progress getting to the place where I am today.
Yeah, I would imagine it's a consistent practice, right? Just like so many other things. I'm curious if the first time you went, you did not go on your own terms. Is that correct?
Correct.
So I'm assuming that would make, for you anyway, a pretty big difference that the second time you went, unfortunately you went again, but you made the choice and you knew that you needed the help. And your brain was more fully developed because you were a young adult. All of these things that go along with growing up, you knew that you needed help, and that you knew that that's, it's why I always talk about building your team, right? No matter what it is, we got to have help from outside. We can't do everything by ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think that also the second time that I went back, so the first time I went in, the interesting thing is that I did feel loved for the first time in a long time. My classmates were really supportive.
Okay.
Like, everyone was really supportive, but it also seemed very temporary. And so I think it was easy for me, because I had no sense of self-love either, that once that external feedback was no longer as prevalent as it was when I was hospitalized, it was easy for me to just fall back into, well, that was all fake love and I'm truly unlovable and this shows it.
So interesting. So you got out the second time, and so yes, it took you that 10-year period, but through that time though, was this when you were going, was this undergrad? Or was
the 4 years of undergrad, I was very sick.
Okay.
So basically the last 15 years of my life, after I got out of my second rehab, has just been personal growth. I wouldn't say I had an active eating disorder any of those 15 years. Like, after my second recovery, I would not consider myself clinically diagnosed or clinically anorexic.
Right.
But I would say I still dealt with some of the mindset, some of the behaviors that I had to continually think about and overcome. And definitely some of the stuff around self-acceptance, self-confidence, a lot of distaste for my own body. You mentioned my abs earlier. I up until recently still hated my stomach.
Wow. That's amazing.
I thought it was so imperfect in so many ways. And I about 5 or 6 years ago, I got an infection, a strep infection, and it led to a guttate psoriasis flare, so a skin condition. It was a horrible rash that just like overtook my body. And I couldn't help but notice that the worst of it was all over my stomach. And it seemed like it was like this message to me that like, I hated this area of my body so much that I was drawing this even like uglier form to it. And it was really hard to love my body through that rash and through that whole condition, and to getting to the point where I am today, where it's like my body is what it is, and I am going to love it for what it is. And it's not going to be the model body or the perfect this or the perfect that, but it is me, and it's who I am, and I'm okay with that.
Right.
But it's taken a long time to get to that place.
It's not easy, especially, I think we live in this, perfectionist society, especially when it comes to our bodies. And it is coming to that place, speaking from, my own stuff, right? We all have our own stuff, but, and, knowing that we're created so beautifully and perfectly, and sometimes we don't see that, but there is, we are created perfectly, and we have, and that's just, it's, and love that, right? And so that's where I've had to come to, is I have my own stuff. I'm like, that's not perfect and that's not right. But it gets me where I want to go, and it carries me, and I take care of it, and I love on it, and I do all the things. Well, I do a lot of things, not all the things that I should do to love on it. I still do some things I probably shouldn't do. Sometimes wine, anyway. But it is this amazing. This is the way we get through life, and this is what we've been given to. Again, I say this a lot, but it's so true. To help others to grow and to love and to give. We're here to when we find our space, find our place, then it's our turn to lift others up. So, because sometimes we need to be lifted up. Yeah.
And there's a couple of things about that too that I wanted to jump into a little bit, which is like this idea that self-love is holding yourself to the highest standard. And I love that idea, because it's like self-love is not eating cookies all day because they make you feel good. Self-love truly is holding yourself to that high standard. So it's making sure that you're eating nutritious food that makes you actually feel good, and that's not just blunting some emotion. It's exercising, it's lifting heavy things so that you can build a strong and confident body, so that you can be a healthy older person and continue to play with your grandkids and travel and do fun things later in your life. It's prioritizing sleep. It's having that glass of wine occasionally because you can enjoy it out with your girlfriends, and social life is an important part of health. Right. Like, those are all things that I think self-love truly is. And I think sometimes we get this like mixed message almost from media that self-love is is like, yes, eating the cookies and going on a spa day. And a spa day can be nice, but I think that it's kind of like the easy way out versus like true self-love is having true self-respect for yourself.
Yeah.
And doing those things that might be hard things, but are the things that prove that you care about yourself, that you're taking care of yourself, that you're doing the hard things sometimes because it's, yeah, I mean, that is true love for yourself.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and it goes to the physical, the mental, and the emotional hard things, right? And so the hard things you lift heavy, like you said, because it's going to be hard, because the hard stuff is what builds the muscle and gets you going and allows for you to live that full movement, a life full of movement, right? And then the hard things that we go through in life, because they're hard, but that's how we grow, and that's how we learn to be the person that we're supposed to be. So it's all important and it's all hard, and how do we know the good when we don't have the hard? How do we know the easy when we don't have the hard? And we've all got to go through it. But one of the things that, just because it's a little bit timely, you're talking about the eating the cookies, and I talk to people who are going on vacation, and we have Thanksgiving coming up, and then we have Christmas coming up, and there is so often, and I've been there, this is not a hit on anybody, but we have this attitude so often that it's a holiday or it's a vacation and I can cheat, which I kind of hate that. It's not cheating. If you want to eat a cookie, eat a freaking cookie, but stop at 1. Or maybe if you want 5, stop at 2, right? So it's and I hate that everything in moderation, that makes me crazy. But it's not denying yourself, but it's also then, as you said, when you stop, it's that respect. And I also want to say, and I think of these things sort of as I'm talking through them. So many of us will continue to blame ourselves for, maybe it's the inability to stop, or not understanding why you have the cravings, or not understanding what's going on. And so there's that constant blame on ourselves, when I think it's really important to understand when we have cravings, when we have this feeling like we can't stop, because I hear this all the time, I just can't stop. Understand that so often it's not the mind that's in control, it's the hormones. You've got hunger hormones that are not functioning properly. You've got satiety hormones that are not functioning properly. They affect all the other hormones. And so it's a symptom. This is a sign. If you have these uncontrollable cravings, if you have the feeling that you can't stop, if you have this, if you say pasta, I have to have pasta, I can't stop pasta, that's a symptom, right? It's a sign. If you can't stop sugar, so all of these things are things to pay attention to. And we've come to this place in our world where we don't pay attention to the language of our bodies anymore. And our bodies are constantly trying to give us information, give us knowledge, tell us what it's trying to tell us, because it needs help, essentially, right? We have to be a part of this journey with our body, and it's always trying to talk to us. And so if we are covering it up with drugs, if we're covering it up with alcohol, if we're covering it up even with supplements, can be a cover, right? We have to take a step back and learn what it is that our body's trying to tell us. And if we don't know, find somebody who can help you, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I think so many people are so disassociated from their bodies. They don't even have any connection. They don't realize that there's a connection between their mind and their gut. And yeah, you said like biologically your fat cells might be hungry, and that's why you feel hungry. But it's not because you actually need more food. It's because your body just doesn't know how to fuel partition properly. So there's a lot of things that can be underlying that, your cravings and why you feel hungry all the time. But overcoming them still might take some form of discipline.
Yeah,
sure. You might have to use some mind control, some discipline in order to make the steps that are necessary to get your hormones back where they need to be. But again, I see self-discipline as a form of self-respect, because again, you're treating yourself or holding yourself to that higher standard.
I totally agree, and it's something that's important to also take to heart, and that I talk about a lot, is it is accountability. I am accountable for what I put on my body, what I put in my body, the thoughts that are in my head, my environment. Now, I also get that sometimes the thoughts that are in our head are a little uncontrollable, but that's a symptom also, right? And so we want to yeah, we want to take accountability, but then also take accountability if we need help. But it's up to me. It's up to me what I do. It's up to me to find help. It's up to me to do the research. It's up to me to do all of the things so I can live this amazing life that we have. You know, it's not up to the government. It's not up to these, you know, whoever it is. It's up to me. And I make the choices. And in my mind, that's one of the most beautiful things about this life that we live, because it is up to me. We're in a place where it's my choice, damn it. And so, you know, we're not always going to make the right choices, but we have the ability to make a lot of right choices and then find help when we need to find help.
Totally.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, and you said that sometimes your thoughts can be out of control, but I think that it's important to realize that they are still your thoughts. They are coming from your brain, so you actually do have control over them, even when they feel out of control. We just need to figure out how to step in and take control.
Yeah.
Like if you're letting something else that you don't think is you take control of your thoughts, like we need to figure out how to put you back in control of your thoughts.
Right. Totally agree. I was going to say something to what you said, and it escaped me, and it doesn't matter. But it's true. So you are now Doctor of Physical Therapy, yeah. And so talk about your journey through physical therapy, because you're now you do more, which we can tell that you do more. You're not just doing physical therapy. Let's talk about your journey through physical therapy in the last few years, and what brought you to what you're doing now.
Yeah. So I've been a therapist for almost 10 years now, which is crazy. I can't believe how much time flies. And I was really happy with it initially, and I still like parts of it. I still, I got into it to help people. Plus, I love the body. I love exercise. I love movement, all those things. I love the manual therapy skill set that I have as a physical therapist. But something was just missing from my ability to truly help people, because so many people that I was treating, when you're treating someone's pain, they unleash on you. So it's like they will tell you everything about every aspect of their life. And so many people were just dealing with so much more than what they'd come to me for. So it was more than just elbow pain or neck pain. They had relationship issues. They were stressed at work. They weren't sleeping. They were overweight, and they didn't know why, and they couldn't lose weight, and they're inconsistent with the gym, and they had all these things going on. And I just really wanted to be able to help with more of that. So I went and got a nutrition certification first. I thought I'd start with nutrition. And I did a little bit with just that, but it was still just not enough to just have food. And I knew that. I've been through my own journey with food, and I knew it was more than just food. So I went and got another certificate as an integrative health coach. And that's kind of what I've been focused on more, is really just bringing this integrated element to health. So we definitely deal with food. It's a very tangible element of people's health that is usually not where it needs to be for them to feel good. So the food is almost the easy part, though. It's once we get that food in a better place that we get to start peeling back the other layers. And exercise is a huge piece too. And I love helping people to build strong bodies. I think that it's just a beautiful thing to be strong, and it helps you to move through your life in just a way more freeing and more energized way. But then we also just end up dealing with people's emotional issues and dealing with the stress, and helping people with their relationships, helping people with their confidence, their ability to implement self-discipline as self-respect, helping them to find better self-acceptance and confidence in themselves, and just so many of those other layers and elements that people know are an issue, but they just want to. Often they just come to me for the food part, thinking that's the only important part, and then there's just so much more. And it's so rewarding to get to help people put together their life in such a more holistic way than I was able as just a physical therapist.
Yeah, it's this interesting, my own journey as a nutritionist has been, I'm a super nerd when it comes to, biochemistry. I love labs. I love looking at, and taking it and understanding how the body is trying to tell us what it's trying to tell us, because labs just give us so much beautiful information. But I find that I have clients who do a lot of the things well, but sometimes struggle, and they're having these really intense physical manifestations. So I have to say this because it's really funny. Hey, Butch. Butch says, your work ethic is incredible. Thanks, Butch. So funny. Appreciate that. Anybody who wants to ask a question or comment, ask us questions and comment. We're here on Instagram and on Facebook. So, and hey, Amber, good to see you. Point to that is what I have found is if I am working with a client who is not moving forward the way that I think they should be moving forward, it is often because of their history. It's often because of their mental and emotional state. It's because they have, it could be trauma in their own history. It could have been, generational trauma that has stuck with them. And it's a hard one. It's hard when there's so much to the physical. People come to me for the physical. And we can't not look at relationships. We can't not look at trauma. We can't not look at, how your mind, if it's the constant, negative self-talk that will impact and create an inflammatory response and impact the body and create dis-ease over time. That's just the way that it goes. And so it's what I know what I was going to say a few minutes ago was it's a constant practice to learn how to not say negative things about yourself. I think that, I don't know if everybody's this way. I have my own experience and I have my mom's experience. My mom, my entire life, was very negative about herself. She was an amazing person. So good, but just always felt so, it just always felt like she just felt so insecure and not enough. And she was so good. She was so good. And so I constantly had to remind her that she had needed to stop the negative self-talk, which helped to remind me to stop the negative self-talk. So getting out of that, and I do this, still I'll say things, but I know now how to stop it and to stop that cycle and to move on and move into the positive. And it is still a daily practice, but point to all of that. It was a very long, drawn-out way of the mental and emotional play such a key role in our physical health, and we have to, as practitioners, understand that, address it to the best of our ability, and again, build your team, because I know that I can't do everything, and there are people who are going to be better, to serve people who have some significant, mental and emotional traumatic issues from their history. So anyway, that's what I have to say about that.
Yeah, and well, it's interesting. You said, the negative self-talk again comes back to our own ability to control our own thoughts. Like those thoughts are coming from our own heads, and it doesn't mean that you might never have another negative self-talk thought ever again. You might not be able to control that thought coming into your head, but you can control what you do with it.
Yeah.
You can control whether or not you believe it, you take it to heart, and you continue to stew on it, or if you change that thought. Say, okay, I recognize this thought. Maybe it's actually telling me something about myself that I need to work on. But not taking it to the heart, or taking it to the fact that I am a bad person, I am not lovable, I'm not worthy, all of those other things, not letting it spiral into that.
Right.
Like, this is a thought that came from my brain. I can take it and I can choose what I do with it.
Yeah. Agreed.
And then another thing you said too was, I think about like identity a lot, and a lot of people start to have these thoughts because they identify a certain way. So like when I was super sick and I identified as being sick and anorexic, it was very easy for me to identify my habits and my behaviors around that. So I'm anorexic, I'm a sick person, so what do I do to deal with my stress or my anxiety? Well, I starve myself or over-exercise. That's who I was. It became part of my identity. And giving up that almost was scary because I had to become something else. Even though it was a healthier version of myself, I was still giving up what was comfortable and what was familiar. And I see that a lot with, a lot of the people I coach are dealing more with overconsumption of food versus under, but it still stems from a very similar place. They're still using food as a coping mechanism in an unhealthy way. And so a lot of times they identify as like, well, if I'm stressed or anxious, I eat a cookie. That's what I do because I know that it solves my problem. And that's true. In the moment, it might solve the problem, but is it solving your bigger problem and your bigger goals for the future? Well, probably not. It's actually probably working against you. So it's having to kind of like disassociate from that identity of I am a person that eats cookies when I'm stressed to maybe I'm a person who listens to music when I'm stressed, or that goes for a run or goes to the gym, or find some other coping strategy that's healthy and identify with that habit versus this other habit that's not serving you in the way that you want.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I think that tends to be a little bit of a detrimental thing that we do. And maybe it's a little bit of a protective mechanism, I'm not really sure, but to instead of I have this thing, it is I am this thing, which maybe not be the thing that we want to be, call it cancer, call it, whatever you want to call it. And I think that can just continue to beat you down, essentially, instead of lifting you up. And that's what we want to find, is what is it that's going to lift you up to help you to move beyond that identity into what your identity is supposed to be, right? It's that healthy person who lives well and does things to the best of your ability. There is no perfection, right? Yeah.
Well, I think it's Brene Brown who studies shame, if you know her at all. She says the difference between guilt and shame is, like, if you spill a cup of coffee, the difference between I am bad versus I did a bad thing. And I spilled a cup of coffee, guilt would be I spilled the coffee, I did a bad thing, but shame is I spilled the coffee, therefore I am a bad person.
Right.
And I think when I was really sick, I definitely went to everything with shame. Like, everything I did, good or bad, was somehow bad, and I was a bad person because of that. And so learning to disassociate from that, like, I am not a bad person because I didn't get an A on a test, or this person doesn't like me, or whatever. That doesn't equate who I am and my value as a person. That's not make me a bad person.
Yeah. Yes, agreed. And so I feel like, forgive me, because you were in PT school, you knew something, or not PT school, you were practicing physical therapy, but you knew something was missing. Did we get to the part where you're a health coach now? And both?
Yeah.
Okay.
A little bit.
a little bit, yes. And so you were just seeing that there needed to be more. And so, because you went to nutrition, sorry, I'm backing up. We got a little off in my mind. It happens to me a lot. But so how long now have you been a health coach?
I've been coaching, I think, a little over 2 years now.
Okay. Okay, good.
And all of my first clients were PT patients of mine that I was already working with, and that I was like, let's do this health thing. I think there's more going on, and they were excited about it too, and it went really well. So
I would imagine.
Kind of built from there.
Yeah. I think I love the fact that you, because this is what I want to do. I mean, if I could just go to school forever, I just would. I would do. How many certifications I don't really care about the certifications. I just want to just keep going to school. But what more can we do? But it's very well rounded. It's in what you're doing, and I think that's so important in working with people. Having them as your physical therapy patients or clients, and then having the ability to work with them in other areas. So often, what we see in conventional medical community is I say this a lot, but it's the blinders, right? This is what I do, this is all that I do, and this is all that I know. And I don't worry about downstream effects down here because it doesn't matter to me. And I don't know what's going on up here because it doesn't matter to me. This is what I do. And it's not how we operate. It's not how our body operates. Our bodies, our heart is not in a vacuum. Our heart is connected to our toes, right? Everything's connected. Including our thoughts, and our mindset is connected to our gut. I mean, we can go on and on. We are connected to each other in some form or fashion energetically, and I think that's an important one to remember too. But there's this beautiful place where conventional medicine can be such a perfect answer for this acute need. But there is also a disconnect because there's the thought that our bodies are disconnected. I only treat this and that's all that I treat. And so in your experience, I'm assuming you felt this way a lot. And like you said, it just wasn't enough.
Yeah. A big catalyst for coaching was I worked in a clinic as a physical therapist, outpatient clinic, but I also worked in home care. And what I saw repeatedly in home care was, it's an older population, but sometimes we're talking about like over the age of 40, so not super old, but anywhere between the ages of 40 and 90. And so many of these people, they go to the doctor and they come home with 5 chronic disease diagnoses that they hadn't had previously, and it was almost like they caught the flu. They thought that they had just like caught caught congestive heart failure, and or they just caught diabetes, And there's this huge misconception. I feel like people don't realize that these conditions are building for years and years and years because of the habits that they've been doing for their whole life, and it's not paid attention to by our doctors. Like if your blood sugar is elevated, you might get told that you don't have diabetes yet, so we'll deal with it when you do, and that's it. And I lost my father a few years ago, and he was a type 2 diabetic, and it wasn't the thing that killed him. He had amyloidosis from Agent Orange exposure in Vietnam, but I don't think having diabetes made it any better for him.
Sure.
And I think it killed him faster. And I think it was mismanaged. I think, when we're giving our diabetes patients medications that lower their blood sugar and then telling them to eat enough sugar so that their blood sugar doesn't go too low, I kind of feel like we're fighting against ourselves. And I think that diabetes in particular is a disease that's mismanaged pretty often. But all chronic disease, we're not treating it, we're not preventing it, we're just trying to sort of put a band-aid on the symptoms and help people exist, but we're not helping them thrive by any stretch of the imagination.
No.
So, yeah.
So go ahead. Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, that's it.
So it's interesting because in my mind, what my goal always is to do my best to understand the root cause. And I don't know this, but if I were to think about your dad's situation, he was exposed to the Agent Orange, obviously super toxic. It's a cellular thing. It's going to put stress on the body. Stress is going to increase glucose levels, right? And so maybe I don't know, maybe he probably already had not a great diet as well, so that certainly can push it. But taking it back as far as we can take it back to the root cause and addressing those root causes it's what we do as practitioners, as whether you call them holistic practitioners or functional practitioners or whatever you want to call it. It's not about covering up. It's not about saying, well, you have this, so let's just deal with it. It's about let's address the dysfunction and understand that we have a full life that has put us in this position we are now, good, bad, or indifferent. That's the way that it is. The diseases that we suffer with today, 95% of them are lifestyle diseases. Now, unfortunately, we can't help. There are things that we can't help, like Agent Orange. Unfortunately, that's a really sad part of life and of your dad's story. But so many of the things, in the world we live in today, so much of what we're dealing with are our choices, which again goes back to accountability, goes back to making those decisions, because they may not show up. The body is so beautifully amazing and resilient and can take so much. But if we do things that are not beneficial to the body, it can take it for a while. So when's it going to show up? I don't know, 6 months, a year, 10 years, 50 years. We don't connect what I did in my 20s, which we won't talk about, to what happens to me in my 50s, 60s, 80s, whatever it is. And it's all connected. And so taking that and understanding that, and we can't go back. So I don't want anybody to feel bad for what they did, because I don't feel bad. I can't go back. But I can certainly make decisions today moving forward. And I can't help but to say this. Sorry, I'm a little bit on the soapbox, but it's part of this is part of it as well, because this is the fascinating piece to me. And what I hope, I will never stop saying this, and I hope that people start to really, really hear it. but the decisions I make as a woman or a man who is thinking of growing your family, you're not there yet, but you're thinking of growing your family, you are making a decision that will affect hundreds of years down the road. You're affecting your great grandchildren, however many. I think I figured it out the other day. If it was 7 generations, it's like 560 years, I think, of people we're impacting. I mean, it's so huge that my hope is that I say that and people are like, holy smokes, I'm making a huge impact, because I think we believe as individuals we can't make much of an impact, but we can, and we do, and we will. And so making those decisions for your future, for your generations ahead, it's so important. We have the ability to get out of this shit show that we're in right now, where we have so many sick people, just by me, just by you, just by all of us making the decisions now. And not all right decisions, but just making the decisions now. I'll stop there.
Right. Yeah, well, I mean, you made the point about making decisions for your future self and for the generations ahead of you too, but even just thinking about your future self, like, eating one cookie is not going to make or break you, but eating a cookie every day or 5 cookies every day, like, how does that pay out your future self?
Yeah.
Versus, going to the gym one time is not going to do anything great for your future self. But if you go to the gym every day, what does your future self look like? And it's just stacking those behaviors that are going to create the future self that you want. I don't know. It's kind of a delayed gratitude, right? Or delayed gratification. Sorry.
Right.
So again, using the cookie example, is like instant gratification. You feel good in the moment, but 10 years from now, that cookie didn't help you. But the workouts that you stack now might feel a little bit hard in the moment, but they're stacking, being a strong, confident person later on in life.
Yeah.
So it's like paying for your future self.
Yeah. Well, and it's so true and amazing. And, it takes me sort of along the same lines is, what I love so much, goes along what I was just saying, though, is the epigenetic impact. And it's that we have this thought process that my health is it's genetic, it's like truly genetic, it's bad luck, or it's age, when it is it's our choices, which is what epigenetics is. Epigenetics is based on our choices. And I'm going to say this too, because Tripp, if you're still watching, I'm partnering with a couple of guys from Ascend Performance who are really into doing genetic testing. I have been doing some genetic testing, but plan to do more. But we are partnering to really push and help people to understand their own bodies so they can make a difference, so we can understand what it is that our body truly needs to optimize, what it is that we need to optimize for the health of our families, for fertility, for athleticism. If you are prone to like Achilles tears, right? We can see that, and we can, for parents out there who have kids, this is the coolest thing, because if you see this, you can start to take measures to prevent it. It's really beautiful to be able to it's almost like you're able to see into the future just a little bit. And I love that about this. So good to see you, Tripp, and we will so many amazing things that we have the capability of doing in this time that we're in, and we're just at the forefront of these things, when it comes to individualized care, individualized medicine, individualized nutrition, which is the way it should be. Going back to conventional medicine has been so generalized, whether it's pharmacological treatments, whether it's supplements, it's all very general, and it doesn't work that way. I've been trained to work with the individual as they are, but it's, we're able to go deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper, and it's just fascinating what we have the ability to do. It's so cool. Yeah.
Well, and I mean, now we're starting to break into the ability to use psychedelic medicine to really tap into the brain in another way, which is just amazing. If you look at the research that's been done on it, And I've even done some of it with a practitioner myself, and it was life changing in such an amazing way because it just taps into your brain, especially people that have dealt with mental disorder or mental issues that have serious trauma like locked away in their brain. It's just an amazing way to get down to that and really let things out.
It is. I have a close friend who does, she's done some ketamine therapy, a little bit of the psilocybin therapy and that kind of thing. And I think it's important to note that it's not about just going out and doing a bunch of drugs, so please don't.
No.
This is a situation where you want to be careful with, and you have your practitioner with you through the process. I have heard that there is, sorry, off topic a bit, but there are companies now who are, they're doing this, but they're just sending it through the mail, and they have nobody who's going through the process with you. And I just think that that's so unethical, but it's scary. You don't want to go through, if you're dealing with trauma or whatever it is that's sitting so far deep in there, and you go and you go through this process alone. I think it's just unfair. It's not right. It's scary. It's not good. So I've heard such amazing things about these therapies and how they can help move you into just such a better place.
Absolutely. I mean, it can reverse the trauma just as quickly as the trauma was set in sometimes.
That's amazing.
So it's amazing.
Is it okay if I ask you what you did? You don't have to say.
Sure.
Okay. So what,
I did ketamine.
You did.
There's actually a clinic. There's a clinic in Boulder where that does it, and it's legal in most states now. So you can some insurance companies will even pay for it. And it was all clinically supervised. It was all injected with by a nurse, and pre sessions, follow up sessions. Like it's all integrated. It's an amazing therapeutic really that we now have access to. So it's just, it's a gift.
It is a gift. It is. And the interesting thing too is, I think that we want to promote and push the natural medicines as much as possible, but this is where, research and conventional medicine really has played a significant role, because ketamine is not a natural substance.
No, it's a synthetic.
Yeah. And so, but what, I'm curious of the downstream effects of it over time, but the fact that it helps, it's helping, soldiers with PTSD, people who have severe PTSD. I know for you, I have another client who did it, that it really helped. So, it's amazing. How many sessions did you do?
I did 2 very, very intense sessions.
Yeah.
And to be honest, I was more interested in doing psilocybin, but it wasn't legal. It's much harder to find a legal way to do psilocybin. I was actually kind of turned off by ketamine because it's a chemical substance.
Yeah.
But a therapist friend of mine actually suggested it. She's like, have you considered it? And I was like, I don't know. It sounds weird. She's like, it's having really good results with a lot of people. You might consider it just because it's a lot easier to find access to it because it's legal.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's kind of why I went that route.
I love it.
But yeah, it was intense. It was scary. It was painful. It was hard. It wasn't fun, but it was life-changing for sure.
That's awesome. I love that so much. Good for you. So I want to make sure that we talk about anything else that maybe that we need to talk about and for sure how people find you, all of those things. But I want to make sure that you have, we've hit on everything that you want to hit on. If there's anything important that you want to say, then jump on in. So we don't have much longer left. It goes so fast.
Yeah. I think, where I'm really focused on nowadays is helping busy women, people that feel like their life might be a little bit chaotic. They're having struggle losing the weight that they want to lose. They have emotional eating. They're not exercising like they want to be. Like, I want women to be strong. Like, you made the comment about my arms and my abs. Like, I don't get that naturally. Like, I work for the body that I have. And I am proud of it now. But I want other women to be proud of their bodies too, and to enjoy being strong, because it's fun. So that's a huge part of what I want to help with women. So my company's called Primal Link. I launched a program recently called Primal Queens. And the idea behind it really is just helping to build bold, beautiful women who want to be powerful, who want to have strong voices, who want to be confident and disciplined and treat their bodies with respect. And just trying to, grow this stronger group of women out there and help support them.
Awesome. I love that. And there's something about being strong and gaining strength that is so it gives so much to the psyche, so much to the ego, not in a bad way, right? I'm not talking about ego in a bad way, but if you're strong on the outside, you tend to start to be stronger on the inside, I believe. And you want to stand up, and you want to stand strong, and it just pushes you to want to continue to grow, and maybe do the things that are scary, right? 'Cause a lot of things are scary when you step outside your box, and you just do it anyway.
Yeah, there's this Alex Hormozy quote that I absolutely love, which is basically like, you don't build confidence by shouting affirmations at the mirror, but rather by building an undeniable stack of evidence that you are who you say you are. Outwork your self-doubt. And I love it because it's like, you don't build confidence by just saying things and pretending things. You build confidence by going and doing the thing that scares you and proving to yourself that you can do it, and then repeating that. And the more you do that, the more you truly build confidence. And so, like you said, like building a strong body, you start to believe you are strong because you have evidence. You look and you see the muscle, and you're like, I am strong. There it is. And the same thing happens with mental skills too. Like the more you go have the difficult conversations or challenge the thoughts that come up in your head that are not helpful thoughts, that aren't healthy thoughts, that are self-sabotaging thoughts. Those are the things that actually truly make you strong and confident.
Yeah, amazing. Okay, and so to find you, so your Instagram, you're on Instagram, you're on Facebook, and it's all Primal, yes? Or
on Instagram, it's Halley Primal Link Coach with underscores between them. I'm just Halley Stocks on Facebook. I do have a Facebook page as well that's Primal Link Health too.
Okay, good. So you have a business page, you have your personal page. Where do you prefer people to find you?
My website as well. You can find me there. You can book free appointments with me always there. I always do a free consultation to make sure it's a good fit. I don't want to take on anyone that I don't think I can help. So you can always find me there as well. And that's just primallinkcoach.com.
Awesome. Wow. Well, thank you so much for your openness to share your story, to be a part of this. I always, my prayer with this show is that we're able to reach people who, even if it's just, right, it's that typical, even if it's just one person, but it's true, who may be dealing with what you dealt with, or whatever it is that you're saying reaches them deep, and they have, it gives hope, really, right? That's what we want. We want to give hope, and I want people to understand that there's more out there than sometimes we know. Being in this position that I'm in, whether it's with the business, my business, or with this show, and the people who I've met that do some of the craziest, coolest things that I had no idea existed, that's the stuff that needs to get out into the world, or the people who are doing the cool, crazy things that are making a big impact, but it's just not the conventional, right? Not everybody knows about it, and so I think it's really beautiful and it's really special, and so thank you for what you're doing.
Yeah, thank you, Nikki. It was great talking with you.
Yep, you too. Appreciate you so much. So we are, of course, Taste Life Nutrition Radio, streaming live on kuhsdenver.com. Next week is Thanksgiving. So we will, well, I don't know if it'll be a replay or if Henry will be, I'm not really sure. But I won't be here. So I'll be in Kansas hanging out with family and friends and just chilling out a little bit. But you can always find me at tastelifenutrition.com, Taste Life Nutrition on all of the social media sites. And of course, there's Soulful Conception, my program that is all based around preconception planning for women and their spouses. So I know I speak mostly to women with this stuff, but it is for their spouses as well, because they are very important in the conception process. So feel free to reach out if you have questions about that, if you have questions about any kind of genetic testing or any other testing, or if you just need to chat a little bit. You can fill out the free assessment on the website, and I'll reach out to you, and we'll just figure out what it is that we can do to help you move forward with whatever's going on. So thank you so much. Everybody have a wonderful, beautiful, amazing Thanksgiving. Good to see all of you. Thanks for joining out there in the world. Amber, I'll call you later, my love. We'll see y'all later on. Thanks, bye. Just give me 1 second.